Welcome to the Voice of 𝗵𝗶𝗀. I'm Panagiotis Kriaris. In this 𝗵𝗶𝗀 talk series, we bring you fresh insights from top industry leaders and payments professionals. Today we have with us Alla Gancz, and we're going to be discussing about agentic AI. So, Alla, the floor is yours. Maybe a short intro, and then we go straight onto the topic.
Hi, and I'm delighted to be here. My name is Alla Gancz, and I lead our payments vertical at ThoughtWorks. I'm based in London, and we're doing a lot of work around scaling AI, data modernization, and supporting our clients in navigating a pathway towards agentic commerce.
Excellent. So thank you for being here with us and discussing about this very interesting topic. Let's maybe start with the basics. So let's understand what exactly is agentic AI. How does it differ from AI that we already know in payments? And then we can discuss about adoption. So maybe can you give us the definition and the background?
Sure. Agentic AI refers to autonomous, goal-driven systems that don't just respond to inputs, but can reason, plan, and act independently on behalf of humans. And I wanted to bring this to life with a very personal example. We have recently been booking a family trip to South Africa. And as we were planning, we used ChatGPT to plan our trip within certain parameters and timeline. And what we got back in return was phenomenal. We got a very detailed itinerary, including the locations that we indicated, but also hotels and recommendations for activities. And it was so inspiring and so exciting. However, to complete the transaction and booking, we had to rely on a human agent, and her name is Tammy, who is based in South Africa, and who helped us to make all the bookings. And so what agentic commerce offers is the possibility of completing that bookings and research and transaction all in one go, ultimately the end-to-end outcome.
Okay, that's very interesting. So maybe what we could say is that we go from reactive to proactive, for example, and that basically the agent now, not the human agent, but the software agent, she would have to coordinate other agents as well to kind of do all the bookings, do all the payments, do all the research, right? So I think that's what changes, right?
Exactly. So for example, a fraud detection system today flags a suspicious event, a payment. An agentic fraud agent could detect the anomaly, automatically freeze the card, notify the customer, and suggest next steps without waiting for manual intervention. Another example is a customer service agent could complete a lost card replacement process, reissue the card, update the digital wallet, and confirm delivery, not just answer questions. And that's why it represents a major step change, not just a rebrand. AI is shifting from classification and prediction to autonomous action. And obviously, it's driven by the customer intent or end user intent that we need to register.
So, Alla, discussing about adoption, what needs to happen for adoption to be faster? And what are the main dependencies, you think?
So first of all, having the right technology infrastructure will be critical. However, even more important are the rules and standards to ensure interoperability across the agentic communication channels. The recent announcements from Google last week is absolutely critical around agent payments protocol that they've launched in close collaboration with 60 partners. And I think seeing that activity across the entire ecosystem, including the work that Stripe is leading, Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, is absolutely critical to shaping the future of agentic commerce by setting out rules and standards for safe and secure transactions.
So basically, these are rules how the agents are going to be collaborating with each other and how payments are going to be made by agents, just to make it understandable for the broader audience. Yeah, that should be critical.
Yes. Effectively, it establishes a payments agnostic framework for users, merchants, and payments providers to transact with confidence across all types of payment methods. So it's really great to see this level of collaboration across the ecosystem.
Okay, that's very interesting. And maybe we can also discuss a bit about the speed of adoption. So, my personal take is that what we have seen so far in terms of adoption is that, let's say we had, for example, fraud detection. These kind of use cases, they were kind of, let's say, easy to scale with speed, only because the regulators were pushing for this, and it made a difference to the day-to-day. Now, maybe with agentic AI, what we see, trust is very core to the whole idea, plus liability and control. And the question is, how long will it take for these principles kind of, let's say, to get in a framework that is addressing all the needs we have? And I'm not sure if this is going to go very fast or how fast. What do you think?
Sure. As Bill Gates said, AI is the most important advance in technology since the graphical user interface. And I would definitely agree with that. However, trust is the cornerstone of adoption, and it will define the speed of adoption. I think the adoption is happening faster than the earlier waves. Fraud models and chatbots took years to mature and gain trust. But with agentic AI and the APIs and the cloud infrastructure, but also GPU infrastructure that we are developing, and the emerging regulatory frameworks, we are likely to see deployments in months and not years. And the reason I'm saying that is because we have seen phenomenal rise of AI tools, whether it's OpenAI, Perplexity, Claude, etc. With 800 million active daily users within OpenAI, consumers and end users have an opportunity to use the channels for different purposes, which is to search, but also complete transactions. So the scale of adoption and the pace of adoption is likely to be slightly different. And obviously, it will be really important that we develop and provide the trust, underlying trust for future transactions.
Yeah, but I think we also have to differentiate between adoption, let's say, in terms of the infrastructure side. So when the infrastructure is going to be ready, and when the consumers and the merchants, so let's say all the actors are also going to be ready to engage with this new technology. So there might be a slight deviation there, and it would be interesting to understand how this is moving. Maybe now we go to the next interesting topic, which is about the customer journey. So, I mean, for me, the big question is, we used to have, let's say, the checkout. So the discussion was all about the checkout, how frictionless, how fast, how easy the checkout is. How is this influencing loyalty? So the question now is, what is the difference that AI agents are making? How are they impacting, let's say, all these things? What do you think?
Agentic commerce is effectively offering a new channel for customer engagement, and it's offering an opportunity to provide hyper-personalized experience, but also make it extremely seamless and almost invisible. So instead of manually checking out, renewing subscriptions, or managing loyalty points, consumers can delegate this to AI agents. And that in itself is forcing merchants to be ready to market to AI agents. And that's a whole new concept that the marketing ecosystem is exploring. So for example, at checkout, the AI agent could compare multiple merchants in real time, find the best deal, apply loyalty points, and pay seamlessly in the background. And again, it's all about that end-to-end outcome. For subscriptions, agents could renew, cancel, and switch providers automatically based on price changes or usage. For example, Netflix can automatically pause their subscription while you're traveling. Loyalty becomes very proactive. So Delta Airlines, for example, is already experimenting with AI to optimize redemptions. And in the future, agents could automatically upgrade you to business class using your points, or ensure you never lose benefits because of missed deadlines.
But I would say there is a big difference here, because if we have customers delegating to agents based on very specific criteria, then you cannot be certain what is the choice that the agents are going to do, right? So if we look at let's say at the whole value chain, I think everyone will have to adjust. I mean, the merchants, they will have to adjust. They will have to make sure in terms of brand awareness that they will be discoverable, quote unquote, from the agents. And that's probably opening up lots of new questions, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is so much to think about. But fundamentally, I think we will be building upon the existing tech stack. We as an industry, as the payments industry, for example, have embraced some new technologies like tokenization, biometric authentication. Now we'll go further, because network tokens, for example, will become the cornerstone of the future. But what's going to happen now is that we're going to augment the existing technology with additional information. That additional information is going to capture the intent, the mandate from the customer to authorize a transaction, but also the card mandate as well. And so there are three things that will be very, very, very important: authorization, authenticity, and accountability. We will need to have evidence that we can prove that a user gave an agent a specific authority to make a transaction. Authenticity, that enabling a merchant to be sure that an agent request accurately reflects the user's true intent. And accountability around liability model. And it's going to become very, very important. It's probably the hardest thing to solve, but liability model will be critical to address.
I mean, at the end of the day, you mean who is taking the blame when something happens that has not been planned, right? So if the agent does something that is not what they were meant to do, right? So who takes the blame? Is it the merchant? Is it the consumer? Is it let's say, the provider of the agent? So I think that's something that we need to clarify and discuss probably.
Yes. And when we think about agentic commerce, we have to think about the happy path and the unhappy path, or even and consider bad actors in the process as well. Because the happy path is easy, but what happens if we need to refund, or if there is fraud, and who is liable? Absolutely.
And that's the big debate actually nowadays. Okay, maybe you go and discuss a bit the use cases. I mean, you mentioned some of them before. So if I may kind of summarize, and then we kind of discuss also what's coming next. So I think you mentioned fraud, right? You mentioned personalization. You mentioned maybe customer service. What else do you see? I mean, for example, maybe, I don't know, commerce optimization, all the things that the merchants are trying to do. What are the most popular use cases that you see?
Sure. The range of use cases cuts across smarter shopping, personalized offers, coordinated tasks. And just to give you a few examples, it's early days, but we're seeing a lot of experimentation. So for example, shopping assistants like Klarna's AI tool can compare prices and even complete purchases. Automated bill management is happening in apps like Clio or Mint, which already has scheduled payments and optimization of balances. And agentic AI can do it hands-free. Dynamic fraud prevention is in pilots, with MasterCard leading the way. Travel booking agents, for example, Google is experimenting with AI agents. But what I wanted to also mention is Walmart are leading the way in how they think about the use of agentic AI. They have recently announced that they're launching a unified AI framework with 4 super agents to support a larger kind of ecosystem of agents, so customer service agents, merchants, suppliers, and sellers. And I think it's absolutely phenomenal, given the scale they have with 900,000 associates and receiving 3 million questions per week. They can produce incredible productivity gains, but also better customer experience. What I like about it is that how they name those agents and give them names. So, for example, the customer-facing agent is called 𝗪𝗏, the merchant agent is called 𝗪𝗏𝗏, and the partner agent is called 𝗪𝗏𝗏 for suppliers. They make it real, they make it tangible, but they also focus on delivering value at the end of it.
Fascinating. Maybe before we go to the next topic, maybe also discuss a bit, what do you think are the use cases that are going to come first? So you mentioned subscriptions, I don't know, Netflix or whatever. That's an obvious one. What else do you think is very likely to go first? I don't know, retail, marketplaces, travel?
I think we're going to see a lot of experimentation and innovation within retail, perhaps, and travel sector. I think the innovation will be driven by AI native firms to start with, and large merchants who are investing and ahead of the game, leading the way. But also, I think the adoption and experimentation will be supported by the much bigger ecosystem, including payment service providers, networks, PSPs, acquirers. In terms of ways and use cases for retailers to consider, I think it's important to differentiate 3 pathways. One is business to agent, where merchants can participate in the agentic channels to sell their products and make their product catalogs available. Second one is agent to consumer, where they can embed agentic experience into their own channels. And the third one is agent to agent, which is powering autonomous purchasing agents by enabling secure software triggered transactions, which is subscriptions or kind of restocking inventories.
Yeah. And most likely, I think, based on what you have mentioned, because in financial services, we also have to define this, the regulation and the liability that you mentioned before, that might delay things a bit. For example, in travel that you mentioned in retail, things might go faster only because they have less of this stuff to account for.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, let's maybe close with the opportunity side, especially for merchants, which is also, I think, one of the most interesting ones. So what are the biggest opportunities? Let's say, I mean, we discussed about personalization, about automation, about invisible payments. Maybe we kind of summarize what we think are, let's say, the biggest, the most obvious opportunities, and then let's discuss also what they can do to get ready. So how would you categorize the opportunities for merchants?
For merchants, the opportunities span three fronts. Like you mentioned, it's hyper-personalization. So when AI agents, for example, can understand the customer intent and push and promote the right product at the right time. Shopify are doing that already. They're offering AI-powered recommendations, but agentic AI will deliver that true one-to-one personalization. Second is the invisible payments. So for example, Uber sort of type experience, but applied everywhere. In retail, for example, Amazon has used Just Walk Out experience, which is kind of providing that invisible checkout. And agentic AI will extend it across e-commerce. And the third area is around back office automation, which is when agents can reconcile invoices, optimize inventory, or even negotiate supplier contracts.
Mm-hmm. I would like to stick a bit to what you mentioned at the beginning regarding the front end, because imagine nowadays you have, let's say, the merchants, they try to address the consumers, and now they're going to have to address agents, and the agents in turn, they're going to have to address the consumer's needs. So it's a bit of a difference, and it doesn't mean, for example, that if I'm a big brand and I have my regular setup, that whatever works today, it's going to continue working as it is tomorrow. So I think merchants will have to do some changes, some fundamental changes maybe, so that they keep getting the traction in the business that they are used to, right?
Yes, absolutely. So there are a few things that we need to be very mindful of. And it's important to become to prepare to become agent ready. So exposing your APIs, making product catalogs machine readable, joining agentic marketplaces and ecosystems. But the key is, it's a long journey. I think there's a long road ahead, but the key is to start experimenting now. I think waiting is not a good option. I think if your products are not discoverable to AI agents, they may not exist in the tomorrow's commerce journeys. So it's really important to begin to plan and prepare for that agentic future.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, waiting, I guess, is never a good option. And I think that's probably the best way to finish the podcast, today's podcast. So very many thanks for joining us. Many thanks for all the very useful and interesting thoughts and feedback. Thank you all for listening to this MP Talks episode, part of the MP 2026 conference happening in March 17 to 19 in Berlin. And we're very much looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you, Alla.
Thank you for hosting. Thank you.
Thank you.